Hey everyone, I just sold enough Bitcoin to cover two invoices that are coming due. And I was going to tell you the logic behind why I sold Bitcoin today for those, even though technically they're not due for like a couple days or a couple weeks. So one of the invoices is the kid's school, and I could float that invoice, but I kind of feel bad. I'm like, it's the kid's school. Like, if they invoice me, even if they give me until July 5th, I'm like, I want to support them. I mean, I don't want to be like last minute, last minute, last minute. So part of me, I just feels bad holding Bitcoin to the very last second if I'm paying an invoice to people I support, friends of mine, things like that. So I don't try to float invoices if it's to friends of mine. And in this case, the school is run by people I know and longtime close friends and all that. So I don't want to float the invoice. I do float the invoices for Rachel's grad school at Georgetown University because I don't feel a personal allegiance to Georgetown University. And so I pay the Georgetown University tuition payments at the very last second. But for local school stuff with kids, I'm like, all right, I'm not going to float those. I'd rather give them the cash, as soon as possible because I know it helps their budget cycle. The other is the whole house generator, and the company that installed it is run by a friend of mine. And same situation. I'm sure they're going to invoice me within the next day or two. And I'm sure I'll have like 30 days to pay or something like that. But same situation. I know what it's like to run a business. I know what it's like for cash flow to be crunched. And I know what it's like to appreciate it when customers pay immediately when invoices come due. So in these two cases, both of those invoices were to friends or to friendly organizations, and I did not want to float them to the last second. The other reason I did it, which is not the primary reason is I just didn't want to float these to the last second. But the other reason is Bitcoin is up significantly right now today. And psychologically, I try to be counter-cyclical, which means I try to not be, even though generally I try to sell Bitcoin at the very last second and always buy Bitcoin at any opportunity I get. In a situation like this, where I've got invoices due, even if they're not due for 3 or 4 weeks, to two different entities that are friends of mine, on a day when Bitcoin's up like today, even though economically it's a bad idea, in my opinion, to sell Bitcoin on a day like today, I did it anyway because there's some chance when these invoices actually come due that Bitcoin will be in a dip 3 weeks or a month from now. And I don't want to be one of the people who's liquidating Bitcoin in a dip, because even though my Bitcoin has like no impact on the global Bitcoin supply and demand, it makes me feel slightly bad when I liquidate Bitcoin when it's going down, because most of the people that are liquidating Bitcoin when it's going down are doing so because they're scared. In my case, I'm never scared because I've been doing Bitcoin 8 years now and it's the best asset in the entire world. But I feel bad if I liquidate Bitcoin and I catch it when it's going down, not because of the economic impacts to me, because again, I'm so far up on my Bitcoin that I'll be fine regardless, but because I feel like I'm exacerbating the volatility. I feel like I'm one of the people who's like buying it when it's going up and selling it when it goes down, which is sort of the opposite of what you're supposed to do in general investing. So I figured in this case, both of these invoices were to organizations or individuals that I support and that are close friends of mine. In both cases, they will benefit by getting that cash sooner rather than later. And also, as a bonus, I would rather sell Bitcoin into a bull run, meaning I'm one of the people doing the opposite of what the herd is doing. The herd sees the price going up and they're like, ooh, it's going up, I better buy more. And I see the price going up and I'm like, you know what, I'll go ahead and pay these invoices to my friends. And then I, of course, do the opposite. Like when the price is going down, I'm like, how can I get more cash? How can I buy more? How can I? Which is part of why the last 2 times I bought more Bitcoin, when I ratcheted my liquid net worth up initially from 97% Bitcoin to 99% Bitcoin, I did it as the price was falling. It had fallen from the 109 into the 90s and then into the 80s. And once it dropped into the 80s, I liquidated 2% more of my, stocks, bonds, cash, whatever junk I had and put it in Bitcoin. And then the price bounced around and it bounced around and it bounced around, but ultimately it dipped into the 70s. And as soon as it dipped into the 70s, I thought, well, here we go again. The counter-cyclical thing to do, the thing to do that's the opposite of what everybody else is doing, is to buy more Bitcoin. And so I liquidated the last 1% that was not in Bitcoin. and put it in Bitcoin when the price was in the high 70,000s. So here we are with the price almost 109,000. It's 108,700. Or 108, yeah, it was above $108,700, which is within a few percentage points of the highest it's ever been in history. And these two invoices came due. One of them I got an email alert. The other I got a text message that said, hey, we're done installing the whole house generator, but there's like one more thing we got to do. So I know they're not going to invoice me till they do the one more thing they got to do, but I know that invoice is coming any second now. And the other one, I literally got the invoice in the mail and said, hey, pretty please, you have until July 5th, but, pay the invoice. So I'm paying the invoice. So I thought I would give you that insight into my own psychology. I try to be counter-cyclical, at least. Sorry, hit the mute button. At least in this case where I got friends that are waiting for cash on the other side. And when we're, in an upswing of a day, I figured I would take advantage of that to be counter-cyclical. I think that is a bad economic decision. If I owed that money to Georgetown University or to any entity that I did not have a personal connection to, I would have said, hey, we're in a bull run. We've jumped from 105 to 108. That probably means we're going to keep going up for a while, which is typically what happens. Typically, momentum keeps going in whatever way it's going. So if something's going down, it typically goes down more before it goes up. If something's going up, it typically goes up more before it goes down, which is why a lot of people try to do this momentum trading and they just, they can never time it right, which is why you should never do it. But if somebody came to me now and said, I want to maximize my returns, I would say, well, then leave money in Bitcoin as long as conceivably possible. If somebody's like, hey, I owe money to a friend, I would say, well, settle up at 108,000 a coin. Go ahead and settle up. There's no reason to string friends along. $108,000 a Bitcoin price is a good, solid price for Bitcoin. And if you owe people money, especially money that, to friends, I would say $108,000 of Bitcoin is a great time to settle up. So anyway, wanted to give you some insight into my own psychology because I just sold a little bit of Bitcoin. And if I get any source of capital, I will buy more Bitcoin, which will be when my paycheck hits in about 4 or 5 days. So in 4 or 5 days, my paycheck will hit and I will buy more Bitcoin, including buying back some of the Bitcoin I just sold to settle up with some of these friendly organizations. Hope all that helps. Whenever possible, I try to give you insights into exactly what I'm doing and why, in the hope that it helps you on your own Bitcoin journey. Thanks, everyone.